Welcome. I am so excited to host another episode of Off the Beaten Path. My name is Susan Walker, of course, with Expedia Cruises here right in Red Deer. And today, this is another one exciting interviews that I get to do with my very good friend, Rino. Welcome, Rino.
Hi, thanks. I appreciate having me here. Excited to
Right?
talk.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so cool, so cool. So we've known each other for a few years through the travel industry. And of course, your photography, I've been following since you've kind of gone out to the public with it. And it is just absolutely amazing. You are so, so creative. And you were able to have this experience that it would be just loss of words of what it would be like to see the gentle giants in the forest. And you not only went, or to the jungle, I should say, you not only went once, but you went twice to photograph the gorillas, right, in Africa.
Yeah, I decided, you know what, break the bank, you know what, wanted to experience it twice. And I was like, got to try out what it's like in Rwanda and Uganda. So I thought, why not, right? All that way from Canada.
Right?
Yeah.
So simply amazing. And I really so excited to hear the story of what it was like when you saw those and you know, with the babies and everything else like that. But I'm not going to ruin it for the viewers. I want you to take us through the journey of what it was like to trek and see these guys.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, let's do this. All right, so
Right.
I'll get started and make sure everything can be seen. And all right.
All righty. And these are your photographs, right, Rino?
These are all my photographs. I just have one map that is a Google map that I'll show you that is not my photograph, but
Sure.
All these photograph of gorillas are all mine. So thanks, guys. So my name is Rino from Rino Falvo Photography. So what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about where you can find mountain gorillas. And I'll kind of, I did go twice. I went once in Rwanda and once in Uganda, but the experiences are very similar. So I'll kind of explain to you guys how the experience is like the day of, the morning, and the trek. And then, of course, the most important thing, I know you guys want to see images, and I'll kind of explain to you, you know, the images that I've taken and why I took them. And then at the very end, I'll say I have some tips, you know, general tips, and then some photography tips.
Oh, perfect. That's exactly what I'm sure everybody's dying to hear about. So let's get started.
All right. So I'll get started here. Okay. So this is basically a map of where you can find mountain gorillas. And so the mountain gorillas are located in East Africa, and it's shared between three national parks between three countries. So you've got Volcanoes National Park in Rwanda. You've got Bwindi Impenetrable National Park in Uganda. And then you have Virunga National Park in the Congo. And so you can kind of, I put a little box there, you can see in the triangle where it's kind of like they're all located. And so the most common parks that people are going to is either in Rwanda or in Uganda. Now, like I said, the reason why I decided to go twice was two reasons. So one was I actually wanted to see the difference between the two parks, because I'm going to tell you, I'm a person who loves to do research before I do things. And I looked at thousands of blogs and look, you know, what's the difference? I mean, let's be honest. We all do this when we work and travel, right? We research. So I was like, forget it. I'm going to do both. I wanted to see the difference. But the second reason why I wanted to is because I'm very passionate about photography. One of the things is that I was worried that the time would go by so fast because I wouldn't have enough time photographing and experience the wildlife, because I'll get into a little bit more after. You only actually have 1 hour with the gorillas if you're there.
Yeah. That's a long flight to take for just 1 hour.
Exactly. So I'll kind of walk you through it. But yes, so these are the locations, but the most common place where people are going these days is either Rwanda or Uganda. All right. So we'll get started. So in terms of environment, environments are very similar. There's a slight differences between the two parks. So for example, on the Rwanda side, you're going to be trekking through more of a bamboo forest. Whereas in Uganda, it's like it's a thick and when it says impenetrable rainforest, it's thick. But the scenery and the experiences, there's certain things that are very similar. So to kind of give you guys an idea, so prior to going on this trip, you need a permit, okay? Mm-hmm. So your wonderful travel agents like Susan Jordana here.
Yeah, exactly. And our team, absolutely.
Yeah, the team, what they'll do is they will organize your permit prior. And so how long in advance? To be honest, if you're going during high season, like you can be needing to book up to 6 months in advance for these permits, okay? And so your permit, what you'll do is on the day of, doesn't matter both sides, you meet at the base of operations, okay, at about 7 a.m. You show up with your passport, your permit, and then the parks wardens will basically do like a debrief. They'll kind of give you an education on gorillas, habitat. The really neat thing was the first time my guide, he's like, I'm going to teach you how to communicate in gorilla.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to do it here because this is live.
Come on.
No. That's definitely, that's not.
There's some stuff we have to leave as a surprise when our clients get there themselves.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Maybe I'll show one another time. But
okay,
they'll kind of talk about habitat, communication, some of the rules, what to expect. And then you kind of get started. So how the gorillas in either park, there are gorilla families located in different sections. Okay. So depending on the hike, you can have, I'm going to simplify it for you. You pretty much have easy, medium, and hard hikes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And it's not a for sure thing, but it's the best way to break it down for you. So what happens is prior to your arrival, gorilla trackers will actually go and track all the families early in the morning, because what they want to do is they want to find out where the families are. And this will, the benefit is they will help to them, it'll help for them to communicate with the guides where you need to track and how far these families are. And so obviously these animals are wild, but the thing is they want to increase the chances. So you can't be guaranteed to see gorillas, but it's about 99% because
that's pretty
the
good
tracker's going out.
Right.
And so once you find out which level of the hike you're doing, I decided to do medium because, I was like, easy. I don't want to do easy.
Right.
Our guides basically said, look, you can have a trek that's as short as 20 minutes, or you can have a trek that's as long as 4 hours one way.
Oh, wow.
So I decided the 1-2 hour mark. I figured I would try that.
Right.
And so you'll meet with your guide, you'll take the vehicles, you'll go to kind of like the starting point, and then you'll begin your trek. And so oftentimes you'll find is you'll first go through a community. Like, for example, this was prior to this location, we went through a farmland. Local community kind of supports this one family that they're kind of like their territory. And then once you kind of start reaching into the forest, you just basically just like typical hiking, and the hikes can be, there are certain parts of it that can be a little bit more difficult. I'd say the most difficult was like the altitude.
Okay.
So especially in Rwanda, that's one thing I will say is a bit different is the altitude is quite a bit higher. So we were going between 2,000 to 3,000 meters. And I know some people are like, that's nothing. Well, I live at sea level. So when you're doing this hike within 3 days of arriving, it was a bit of an adjustment.
An adjustment, yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So what's neat is you're going through the experience, you're going through your hike and whatnot, you'll take your breaks. And then what will happen is that once your guide is communicating with the trackers while you're hiking, you'll finally meet. And they basically give coordinates. So I'll give you an example is when I did the second hike, that got to a point where our guide was like, there was no trail. It was literally a wall of forest like this. Wow. And he says, we have to go through that. And we're like, well, how are we going to get through? It's literally impenetrable. And he's like, that's what machetes are for. And your guide and the rest of the team will start using a machete. You start going through. And so it's just, if you've watched like Gorillas in the Mist or read the books, and you like your vision in your mind, it feels like that experience. You're going through the jungle. It's like you're sweating, it's hot. It's like, oh my goodness. But you're like, oh, this is I feel like I'm earning this experience, like reliving Diane Fossey kind of thing.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
So you'll meet up with your trackers. And then that is the point where you basically meet them. They're like, okay, gorillas are only about 30, 40 meters away. And then what you do is you drop your bags. Okay. You drop your backpacks. You can't carry your backpacks or anything like that. And all you can take is your camera, and that's it. And then this is where it kind of starts. This is the moment you like everyone waits for, is that the moment you find the gorillas, you have 1 hour. Okay. And I'll tell you, it'll be the fastest hour of your life.
Oh, I can only imagine. And why 1 hour?
The reason is that, so gorillas, we share 98% of our DNA with mountain gorillas. And
That's so crazy.
So the problem is though, is that they're susceptible to our diseases.
Oh.
And they can actually get sick from us. Oh. So there's a couple of reasons. First is more of like to make sure that they don't get sick. Okay. And the second reason is they want to make sure that there's a balance between being habituated and making sure that they stay wild in their own terms. So they find 1 hour's just the perfect amount of time, and then you leave them, and then that's it. So every day they can have tourists come out, see them, and then after 1 hour they're left alone in peace.
Oh, nice. Okay,
yeah, so
that's fair.
Yeah. So I'm going to start showing you guys some images, and I'll kind of walk you through it. So as you enter and you go through those 20, 30 meters after you find the first thing you start noticing, you start hearing them. And it's kind of like, you know, in the scene of Jurassic Park where you're like, you hear the trees moving and shaking, you hear the grunt, but you don't see them yet. And this is the part where it starts getting exciting. You get this build-up anticipation. You're like, oh my goodness, this is my moment. I've been waiting my whole life for this. And then you start seeing them. And like, you know, first questions, people are like, well, how close do you get? Well, to be honest, like the technical rule is that 7 meters is generally 7 meters or 21 feet is how close. But the thing is, gorillas move, and they actually come within that. So, you know, you're going to find that the opportunity of seeing them is quite amazing. So the first thing you're going to start noticing is, like when you lock eyes with a gorilla, that's the moment that changes everything for you. Like, I mean, like, I love this image. This gorilla here literally was just like a cat. We're just staring at me, and I wasn't that far away. And when you lock eyes, you feel this connection with nature, but also almost like a distant relative. And it's quite amazing. And so once you kind of go through this stage, you're like, okay, you know, your adrenaline's pumping, you're getting through an excitement. Then you start paying attention to other things.
Oh, look at that.
So the big thing is that when you start seeing the similarities with the human features, that's the part. And the thing that got me the most was the hands. Like when you look at their fingernails, they're just like us. I mean, this one here needed a pedicure. No, manicure. Is that right? Manicure.
Yeah.
So, but when you look at their hands, you're just like, that's just like us. Right?
That's what a hardworking Alberta man's hands look like, right?
Exactly. And you know, seeing this is the thing that starts to become remarkable, and you're like, wow, you're seeing this with your own eyes, and you start the things as you're spending more time and start unraveling more and more, and like, you know. And so when it comes to this is that you start seeing their hands, obviously, and their fingernails and certain things. Right. And then the next connection is that, and keep in mind, your hour is flying, okay? But then the next stage is you start noticing the similar human behaviors, okay? So for example, this image on the left here, this gorilla here, it had like almost like I don't know if it had like a sore or a pimple or something, right? And it was actually going into its mouth and trying to pinpoint and being like, what is wrong with my mouth? And I was sitting here not far away and just mesmerized, and I'm like, these are like our cousins, right? Like, you know. And so the expressions that gorilla have are kind of like humans. They're very similar in the senses, like and then you start looking, you're like, what are they thinking? You know, this guy here was actually an old silverback. He was retired, we'll call him Grandpa. And, you know, hanging out with him, I took photos of the big silverback. The first photo was a big silverback. Right. But I was more intrigued by this guy because you just looked at him, he's like wise. You know, right. You just look and you're like, you know what? You've had a life of experience. Like gorillas can live up to 40 years. And, you know, you can just see that they've had a life experience. But watching, It's amazing.
Right? Oh, look at this one.
And yeah, so then you start seeing social dynamics. And obviously I know people are looking for like cubs and the young ones, but this is the thing, the affection that they have for each other. So this guy here is a couple of years old, and his mom was laying down, and he wanted to be cuddled with mom. So that hand that you see on the right hand side is mom holding her son, and his expression of joy. He's so happy. Mom's giving so much love, and watching these beautiful moments with family, it's quite special.
I don't know. I'm crying already. I can't imagine what it was like for you there.
Just well, like I said, you're gonna have your opportunity when you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So look at this guy, the thinker.
Yes, and this guy here's the thinker. He's like, and this is the part where you're like, I wish I can go into your head and just see what you're thinking. Like, you're looking at this and you're just like, huh. And he's doing this. Do you know with his chin? Like how we do it? And you're getting excited, you're taking your photos, and then you put you on your camera and you're just like, it's quite amazing.
Right? And that's one thing I would think you have to do. You want to take the million pictures, but you have to put it away. And
yes,
in the moment, right?
You need to, yeah. And you know what? Honestly, like that's one of my tips at the end is like,
sorry.
You have to. So you have to just enjoy the experience. Even for a photography, you just need to enjoy. So, and again, like, some people, let's be honest, people pick their nose, and we know this. And gorillas are no different. And you know what? This gorilla had no shame digging deep. Right. So you'll get some comic relief. Yeah. So the affection, that was probably my favorite. And like, earlier we saw like a young gorilla getting affection from mom, but you know what? It's also reverse. So this young gorilla was actually giving affection to his mom. Aww. And so mom was laying on his lap, like no different than you're on a couch. Okay.
Right.
And all you see the young gorilla's hands, okay, on the right, and literally stroking just her side of her face. And they're just hanging out like it's, a night out, Wednesday night at home. And it's beautiful.
Well, and as a mom, that's one of my best moments, right? Is just being able to sit there with my girls, and they're maybe not stroking my head, but right? But we're so close to each other. We're so close. Yeah,
so close, intimate, and that's important. And and so again, like these are oftentimes, so gorillas will oftentimes, just hang out. They're not always on the move. So, they will spend a quarter of their day eating. And I'll tell you guys right now, they're vegetarian. Sometimes people are scared that they're meat eaters. They are not. They are vegetarians. But what they'll do in the rest, they'll just actually hang out, and they just go into their nothing box. And they just hang out, lay there. And again, similar to the other guy, gorilla that was thinking, I was like, you look and you're like, oh, what are you thinking? Probably just nothing, but still. Right. And then we're fortunate in Uganda where we had a gorilla with this family that was 3 weeks old. 3 weeks old. And I'm telling you, this little gorilla had better hair than Elvis in 3 weeks. Like that's back home.
Head of hair.
That is all natural. You have no hair products or anything in there. I mean, he's got a bigger beard than I do almost already.
Right? Oh, he's so cute.
I know, so cute. And like this is mom's pretty protective, obviously. And so the young gorillas will stay on the mom's chest pretty much most of the time. But yeah, when you see how them nice and small like this, they're just adorable. They're just tiny. Yeah. And then this little guy, he's a year to 2 years old. And the thing I love, the 1 to 2 year olds are the funniest because they're just like kids, full of energy. They're running around, they're climbing trees. And actually, the interesting part, our guides kept on telling us, they're like, you know what, we're not worried about things like, the adult gorillas or the silverbacks or whatnot. They say, no, we just have to keep more an eye on the kids because the kids are more curious. The kids are the ones that will come up to you and start playing with your shoelaces and stuff. And they don't want that. They're like, look, we want them, they're habituated with us, but we don't want them to get too comfortable.
No, exactly.
you know, for example, this guy here was getting too close and he was starting to play with people's shoelaces, and our guide was like speaking gorilla and was like, hey, 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 you know, too close, too close. And he's like, okay, fine. And he goes back and climbing the tree.
Oh, too cute.
It's so cute, so cute. Yeah. This is a silverback Rafiki. Not to be a downer or anything, but this is kind of the reasons why we like, you know, these parks are so important. Rafiki here was a silverback that unfortunately last summer was supposedly accidentally killed.
No.
Yeah. And the thing was, the problem was when the parks were closed, people actually went into the park looking for game, for food. And the problem was they came across Rafiki's family, and Rafiki was upset for obvious reasons, protecting. And unfortunately, the people supposedly defended themselves. And unfortunately, it was an accident, but it was an unfortunate accident. And so the thing is like Rafiki and along.
Yep. We just cut out. Well.
Every 5 to 10 years, they do a survey, kind of like how Stats Canada does the same thing. Okay. Last statistics are previous to this last one, there were about 850 gorillas left between the three countries.
Oh, wow.
Mountain gorillas. But the good news is they're at to 1063 gorillas.
No way.
As of last year.
Good news.
Yes. Yeah, so they're doing, the permits are working, you know, this ecotourism aspect is working. So you know what? I know it's a good thing. So
that's happy, yes.
Yeah. And then one little bonus I will throw in you, because a lot of people don't know about the golden monkeys. So in Rwanda, Volcanoes National Park, you also have the opportunity to see golden monkeys, which is specifically in this park. So if you're a type of person who's traveling, wants extra time to see these beautiful golden monkeys, they're in the same park as the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
Oh, okay. They're cute.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So I'll get into some general tips. And we'll go through it here. So the first tip is hire a porter. And I can't stress this enough for you. I know, you know, the first reaction is like, oh, you know what? I don't need to hire a porter or whatnot. It honestly, it helps the local community more than you know.
Right.
So remember how I was mentioning how there are multiple gorilla families around the different parks? Okay. Well, each gorilla family is kind of like has a village that's, let's call them the ambassador of that family. Okay. And what the parks do is they say, okay, we will have porters available basically to carry your backpack. Okay. And to also help you with the trek. Okay. And let me tell you, these are my two porters that I hired. The guy on the left here, I forgot his name, helped me so much, especially on the Rwanda side, because the trail that we ended up having to take was like steep like this with pure mud. And he actually had to help a lot of us. And I was so fortunate about it. Now, in terms of the backpack, I didn't have lots. I had my camera, I had my snacks, but it only cost $15 US. For the whole porter, for the whole time. $15. 15. And the money goes directly to them. Like you pay them directly. And this is just, you know, $15 US goes a long way for them. So even if you have 2 pounds of stuff in your backpack, I highly encourage you to do it, just because, you know what, it directly helps that person. And can't stress it enough. And how much they're suffering right now, right? They're just going all of our help that we can give. And I mean, you would double that. I would like to think some people would double that amount, right? $15. You know what? I know. And to be honest, my porter on the left, Jenny, I'll never forget her. I had her in Uganda. And she, in this village, because we were with a large family, in this village, they have 72 porters, people that are like licensed to be a porter. She's one of 2 women in that village. And I tell you, I loved her because she was tougher than all the men. She was my favorite. And, you know, not only did I pay her, she was a single mom of 2 kids. I think kids were around 10 and 12. And she had a little like curio shop, you know, those little shops. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna come and get stuff. I actually have my gorilla
Oh,
that she
cool.
carved on my desk, and I'm like, I had to support her.
And she carved that.
She carved it, yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, so talented.
So yeah, hire a porter, very big. Gaiters and gardening gloves. So I'll start with gardening gloves because these are very obvious. If you're a gardener, bring your gloves with you, because think of it like this way. There are plants out there that are like rose plants. And you know, you have the stabbers, we'll call them. Well, they have stabbers that are even bigger. And when you're hiking, especially in those certain sections that are steep and you have to grab onto branches to get your way moving, you're going to want gardening gloves. So make sure you have those. The gaiters, for those that don't know, because I honestly had no idea what a gaiter was prior to this trip.
Okay, glad you're explaining it now, because I wasn't sure.
Have you ever heard? No, it's the first. So basically, think of it like a shin guard, but basically you attach them with your boot, and it goes all the way up to your like basically protecting your shin. From the same thing is that because you are going through the rainforest and the impenetrable side, again, same thing. We'll call them the stabbers, the plants, will actually cut your leg. And so the thing is, there was one guy who didn't have it, and I don't know why he wore shorts, but it was, I don't know why. And by the end, he had his legs all chewed up. So highland, these gaiters are just there to protect you. You can go to Mountain Equipment Co-op. I think it cost me like $30. It wasn't that expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's not bad. Next thing, train. Now, I say this is, when I say train, is go for a hike. So I thought, oh, I'll just go to the gym. You know, I'll do the Stairmaster.
Yeah,
Stairmaster will do. No, I highly encourage you, go for a hike. I mean, you guys are close to the Rocky Mountains, you know, not too far away. And the reason is that when I did the Rwanda hike, I wasn't prepared for altitude. And so I highly encourage you to go for a hike. Just go for 1-2 hikes per hour, and it'll be good.
Okay, good.
Water and snacks. So that's pretty obvious, but just a heads up, Uganda was pretty strict about this. They wanted you at the time to have at least 2 liters of water, and obviously your sandwiches and stuff, because what can happen, and something to be prepared about, is you might sign up for, you remember I was telling you about the easy, medium, hard hikes? Okay. You could end up signing up for, let's say, an easy, medium hike, and the gorillas could move, and you could be following them. And so that hike could end up being a 4-hour hike one way. So you need to be prepared, and Uganda is pretty strict about this because this has happened before. So they're just like, just be prepared to be carrying it. Okay. Insect repellent, mosquitoes, you're in a rainforest, you know, bring it on over. And then rain gear, because again, rainforest, you might get wet. There's a good chance you will, but just bring, the thing is that one thing you'll be surprised is that it's actually quite cold in the morning, especially on the Rwanda side as you're climbing. It's quite cool. So bring underneath, wear layers that can breathe. And then also bring like kind of like a thin, like, I mean, I had a Patagonia thin, like warm hiking kind of down, not down, but you know what I mean? And just have layers, but then on top, just make sure you have waterproof stuff.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to spend all that money and all that time and get there and not be prepared. And
yeah, no, you and you know what, like obviously you've invested this time. This is a huge experience. You want this experience to be as comfortable as possible. So the more prepared you are, the better.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, those are great tips. Thank you.
No problem. And the last one I was talking about is photography tips. Now, I won't go into too technical because I recognize a lot of people watching. Some of them won't know if I get too technical.
For sure. Well, you know what? If we get enough interest, we could do another one for the group of people that really want to get into the technical side. So
yeah, and you know what?
Let us know.
Exactly. And if any of your customers have questions, they can honestly reach out to me, and I'll happily answer them for them. So I just put these out there just to keep them things simple. So the first thing I'll tell you is low light. So what I mean by that, you know, when you take photos, whether you're with your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever, and it's kind of like the evening hours, and sometimes it's harder to take those photos, just be prepared. You could have something similar. Because the thing is like, for example, Uganda, the rainforest was just covered the whole area. It was hard for light to get in. So just be prepared for low light. Second tip is don't overkill on the focal length. So what I'm talking about is zoom. And this is something I know a lot of people who are doing a safari in Africa. They are like, oh, you know what? I know you're going to be thinking, I need, 200, 300, 400, and 500 millimeter focal length.
Right.
The maximum you need is 200.
So, okay.
So just so that you guys know, do not overkill it because you are so close to the animals. Like I had a focal length of 70 to 200, and that was enough. You don't need any more. Yeah. Next one is bring one camera, one lens. The reason is you can't bring your backpack.
Right.
So you want one camera, one lens. You can bring a second, but I found that to be actually the best, easiest thing.
And so what kind of wide angle or zoom lens?
You know what? This is something, like I said, I did tons of research on. I decided to go with, I call it the medium lens. It's 70 to 200 because I wanted portraits, but I wanted details.
Right.
But the thing I do wish is I actually kind of, in some way, I wish I also had the length to do wide because I wish I was able to get more environment photos. So I've got lots of friends who actually brought their wide one with a mix. So if you have the flexibility of a zoom, I think is better.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Bring a cloth that you can clean your lens with, but a soft cloth, because what will happen is it'll rain, whether you have your iPhone or your point and shoot camera or whichever, because guaranteed water is going to get onto your lens. So just make sure you bring a cloth. Right. And then the tip we said earlier, do not forget to put your camera down, because I can't stress you enough. Your 1 hour will fly by, and before you know it, your guide will tell you, okay, guys, we have 5 minutes left. And you're like, where did it go?
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've been on those trips, right? You whatever kind of an amazing spot that you're in, and people get there and they do nothing but take pictures and then leave. And then you just have to really question, did they actually experience it? And can they talk like you did, because you are in the moment at some point of time, right?
Exactly that. And that's kind of the reason, if people are fortunate, if people have the opportunity to go a second time, that's where the second time actually played a big part, because naturally, you're going to be so excited, adrenaline, because it's so much that I found that the second time I went, I had the adrenaline to the, like, let's say half level, but it allowed me to observe and experience it a bit more,
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So obviously these are amazing trips. We highly recommend that you go with a reputable tour company. We just happen to, and there's several of them, right? You worked with amazing one, and we have other good friends that work with other ones. So it'd be just a matter of who you're going with, what you're looking for, and the team here at Expedia Cruises here in Red Deer can definitely help you go through. But just to go over there and try and do it on your own, it can be done, but I think you lose a lot of that trip. Would you agree?
I would agree. Like this one here, I highly recommend, speaking with the team, because there's components that are very important, not only with permits, but also logistics. Right. Like some things, like, for example, like, going into with Uganda versus Rwanda, and what else you want to experience, because not only that is a lot of people who are doing these trips are also going to want to do a safari.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so that's where you want to make sure you talk with the team, because could you do it by yourself? Yes, but there's a lot of components and variables. With it.
Yeah, exactly. And then working with the team, with your consultant that understands all so that adventure travel is also really super important, and to have the relationship with the companies to help us figure everything out. So that's awesome. So Rino, that was fascinating. You talked about time going by. I haven't looked at the time at all. I don't care what time it is. I was just so intrigued on listening to your story and picturing myself there right beside you as you're taking these pictures of these amazing animals. So I have to let you guys know, if you are watching this at all, please look at Rino's photography. I'm in the process of trying to weed through his pictures to figure out which ones I think I'm going to, as he suggested, purchase 3 of them. So let me know your favorites, because it's hard to pick. I just want my whole wall of your photography, because you've got other amazing ones. You've got elephants. Your owls are absolutely spectacular, And also too, we are going to have you back because you went and experienced the polar bears as well. And
yes. Oh, I can't wait. That was the most recent thing. Yes, I'd love to talk about polar bears.
Yeah. We used one of your pictures on our post on Friday because it just really spoke of how lots of people are feeling right now. So thank you, my friend. That was absolutely spectacular. Thank you for taking us through that journey, and hopefully you and we can get back and see these animals sooner than later.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I really appreciate it.
You bet, my friend. Talk to you later.
Talk to you soon. Take care.
Hey, thanks. Bye.